When we're working on DevOps projects, there's some terms that come up on a regular basis, and one of those is what is continuous integration. Continuous integration is the idea that developers constantly integrating their code with other developers' code, not waiting till some sort of integration day where everyone has to merge their stuff together and step on each other's toes and try to figure out whose stuff is going to be the working changes and who's going to have to rework their stuff to work with everyone else's. The idea is if you do it in small enough chunks, first of all, you lessen the chance of stepping on each other's toes, and even when you do step on each other's toes and make changes to the same class or non-compatible changes in classes that are working together, you end up doing it on small steps, so that it's easy to back it out or make adjustments, so that you're not running into what used to be called integration hell, which is there's so many changes and it's so hard to get your code to work with some other developer's code and their code working with your code, and just avoiding that. And you do that through this idea of continuous feedback, right? Constantly doing checks, getting everybody's code, doing the merge, even if it's local on your system, running the tests, making sure I haven't broken anybody else's stuff, and then keep moving. And do that on really small steps. Generally speaking, we don't want to go more than an hour or two without doing some sort of integration on a team. This is not something we do once a week. This is something we're doing many, many times a day. We usually use some sort of engine like Jenkins or Circle CI or Travis CI, something like that, to help us do the integration. But the integration usually involves merging your code, even if it's on a branch, taking that branch, running the unit test on it, running some static analysis on it, making sure everything still works and still meets your quality guidelines for the team, and doing that all the time. That means it's going to have to be a quick loop. We generally put an upper limit of like 10 minutes on it. It's somewhat arbitrary, but it doesn't mean that 9 minutes is fine, but 10 minutes is somehow bad. Really, 9 is terrible. 10 is just beyond terrible. We can't even get any worse than that. So we just say, hey, give up at that point. You need to cut things down. We want these loops to be 2 or 3 minutes, so it's something that is truly run over and over and over. Every time someone makes even the smallest change, go ahead and run the continuous integration, get the feedback. That way, if you're wrong, you're 2 or 3 minutes wrong, or 5 minutes wrong, or 10 minutes wrong, not hours of work down the drain because you went the wrong way and you didn't realize it wasn't working. A lot of times, continuous integration leads to discussions of different branching strategies, and quite often it's brought up that trunk-based development is the right way to go. The idea is that if you're working right off the trunk, everyone's working off the trunk, then you're truly doing continuous integration. You're not holding code out that's not being merged for days or weeks at a time. If you work with long-lived feature branches that live for more than hours or days, or a day or two, then you typically start drifting away from other people's code, and you're not integrating with it continuously. It's still possible to do short-lived branches and have continuous integration, or have something that's nearly continual integration by just constantly pulling in changes off of the trunk into your branch, so that when you go to merge, it's only your changes going in. You've already picked up everyone else's changes, but it's still better to try to work closer to the trunk. And the closer you can get to the trunk-based development, the more continuous the integration is. Another term that comes up that's related is, what is continuous delivery? In many ways, the theory behind continuous delivery is just a logical extension of continuous integration. Whereas continuous integration is something that's quick feedback loops for the developers within like a 10-minute period, something really quick. Continuous delivery is doing that, but getting it outside of just the development team, maybe into the hands of the customer, or at least into getting ready to be deployed. A lot of times we talk about you've achieved continuous delivery when being able to deploy is a business decision, not a technical one. So if the product owner says, hey, can we take what you have ready this morning and push that out to our customers, push that out to production? If you can say, yeah, it's not going to take us much, it's just hitting the button, we're going to go ahead and send that stuff out, that's continuous delivery. If you have to say, okay, but we're going to have to stop what we're working on, it's going to take us a couple days to get the delivery packaged up and ready to deploy, then you're not in continuous delivery. You have too many technical steps to go through, right? What we'd like is push button. And what's really good is if we can get it to the point where at any given point, we have a lot of development going on, we have a lot of loops going through, we have a lot of builds being packaged and ready for ready to be deployed or delivered to production, and the business owners, the stakeholders can come and say, I want the one with these features. What's the latest one, the best tested one? Can we take that, push that out? And it's really just a choice of, yes, let's pick, build 124. That's the one that's ready to go. 125 has some new features that aren't quite fully baked yet. Okay. How is continuous deployment different? Well, continuous deployment is yet again the next extension. If continuous delivery is constantly having builds ready, that it's a business decision, not a technical decision, to deliver quality software into production or into the hands of customers, continuous deployment takes all the human effort out of that. And what it does is it uses enough automation such that every bit of code that's committed automatically gets pushed out and deployed to production or into the hands of the customers automatically without human intervention, as long as it passes all the quality checks. In my view, most teams are never going to get to continuous deployment, but the journey towards continuous deployment is very, very valuable because it gets you further and further down the path of continuous delivery, making it more and more automated and sticking to the idea of constantly improving the whole system of delivery, which is the first way in the Phoenix project for DevOps. And finally, what is CI/CD? A lot of times this term gets thrown around. It's really just continuous integration, continuous delivery put together. All they're saying is that whole package, which is really continuous delivery. But a lot of times people get hung up on you can't do continuous integration without using this tool, or you can't do continuous delivery without using this tool. And so people kind of use CI/CD to mean the entire spectrum of tools and practices and processes that use it. Even if you're not at continuous delivery, you're working towards it. A lot of times people throw that around as CI/CD, but it really is just shorthand for continuous integration and continuous delivery. So hopefully that was helpful. Thanks a lot.